Ayubowan, everyone. We have a privilege, in fact, to have um, a non-dual speaker, a fairly popular known non-dual speaker, and he is none other than Paul Smith. Welcome, Paul. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sri Lanka.
Yes,
Although we
yeah,
haven't
I'm
visited.
glad you asked me. Yeah,
Right, Paul. Basically, as you know, Sri Lanka is predominantly a Buddhist country, and non-dual message is fairly new. But however, in the last 5 years or so, there has been an increasing interest because they find that the non-dual message is somehow stated in some of the discourses in Buddhist scriptures also.
definitely.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. And then I myself have done research and I came across some of the sutra, what we call the discourses of Lord Buddha, where this non-existence of a separate self, where it is mentioned that it is a kind of a fallacious idea, something to that extent. Now, Paul, my first question is, it will be very hard for anyone to grasp this message that the belief that there is a separate self is not true because the nature of that statement is such that if there is no such person, who is saying it?
Yeah.
Something like that. Now, I would like you to start from there, and then we'll move on with the
Well,
questions.
the thing is, from when we are 1.5 years old, then the brain releases this self-awareness that we also call the ego. So from that point on, you start to believe that you are a separate entity and that you are the ones making the decisions and doing the actions. Um, and when you believe this throughout your whole life, this is really part of your belief system. And then when we go to the non-dual message and it says, yeah, it looks like you are a separate individual, but actually everything is one and everything simply happens. So this is a total paradigm shift, and I totally get why Zen Buddhists or non-dual seekers, it takes some time to comprehend what's being said. But also, if we look at Buddhism, like Buddha said, events happen, deeds are done, but there's no individual doer thereof. So it also refers to exactly the same idea that everything is one consciousness experiencing itself. So it's actually the easiest message in the world, but for someone who's so identified and conditioned with this idea of this is me, it's quite hard. At least that's my experience.
Now, of course, one might say yes. Uh, we can use logic and say everything is connected to something else. So if there is a causality or causal connection, because you can't pull one person out and say, okay, you are the only one who is responsible for, because everything is interconnected. But that is knowledge. It's not
True.
kind of, it's not experience. People don't feel it. They'll say, yeah, logically that may be true. Yeah, that's in a way true.
And this is what I
What's
hear
your
often. People, especially in the West, are quite rational. So they totally
Mhm.
comprehend the message. They can even write a book if they want about it.
Mhm.
And then they come to my talks and say, but nothing changes. So uh, it has to go from let's use it as a metaphor from the head to the heart. So it
Mhm.
really becomes a part of your nature, and therefore automatically your conditioning will change a little. But I know people who totally understand the message at a rational level, and they still mentally struggle the same as ever before.
Uh, this the next one is about free will and choice. Now, this is a hard one. I mean, no one is going to accept that because, of course, there have been experiments and neuroscientists have established, sometimes your brain is faster than your conscious decision. And we have heard this enough. However, now the moment you as a speaker say, um, well, uh, question the so-called free will and choice, whether that is true, whether you actually have free will and choice. Now, just suppose what you're saying is true, that there's no free will and choice. In other words, everything, even you even challenge science, you even challenge the whole existence, which is described by rational explanations through the science, right? These are huge upside down. The moment you say there's no such thing called free will and choice, of course, free will and choice, not per se, but as a whole. I would like to hear from you, because from horse's mouth.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely the experience of free will, but this is when I do a talk for a company, I explain it neuroscientifically. So it's the unconscious brain that does everything, that's also making the decision, and you become aware of the decision, of the outcome afterwards. So our brain creates the illusion that it's me that decides what words I'm speaking at this moment, uh, which is an illusion. But if we dive deeper and look at non-duality, there's not even an I inside you that's separate from everything making a decision. So who is this I? That's what Ramana Maharshi would always ask the Indian guru. Who is this I? Who are you? And if you do research to that question, you'll discover amazing things because there's not an I inside you. There's also, if we look at neuroscience, there's not an I or part of the brain that's an I that's controlling the system. So the message is everything is simply happening. You are happening, I'm happening, the tree is happening, the dog is happening, the water is happening, the universe is happening. But there's no separate individual controlling anything. It's oneness at play.
When you actually advise corporates, especially when you say the corporate world is driven by profit orientation, productivity, efficiency, you name it, and they want to kind of, they use the word competing with the competitors, but they actually want to kill the competitors. That's a business flavor in which, but when you address them, you have to handle this very cautiously, because, of course, um, now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, because what you say might transform, there could be a transformation within people in their business approach. But that again, you prefer to come back and say, well, that is what is, and that is what is happening. I mean, but if you get back and say, I went and advised them to do so, and then they advise, and then they started doing well, then you are again you're contradicting the real thing that you want to communicate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so true. So I'm a comedian, so I just make jokes and I make jokes about
Uh,
neuroscience, but I never advise anyone anything in the company. Other people can do that way better. So kind of I'm not going too radical with the non-dual message in companies because almost no one cares. It's only a very small percentage of people who actually wants to hear this message. And so I'm a bit careful in companies with it, but mostly what you see, people have a lot of crises in their lives, and at some point you start to search. Then it's the spiritual
yeah.
seeking. So the Guru Nisargadatta Maharaj would say, your ego is like a coconut, and it will be hit many times during your life, but there will be a moment when it breaks open, and this is when the path of awakening starts. But if it's not broken open, then no one wants to hear this message, because for the ego this is the worst possible message in life,
Right, right.
because the ego is based on the idea that this is me. Am I good enough? Am I rich enough? What do people think of me? My status, etc. And then once you realize that this whole idea of being a me is an illusion, it's quite tough for some people.
No, Paul, if, say, for instance, you give a speech on this, and then the audience, they will, of course, they will start searching. All right, now, even to search who am I, you know, uh, there is a bit of a problem with the language, because the moment you say I have to search, then you are again establishing this I. Probably you start, you will start giving away or dropping your other egos, and then you will go after another ego, which is a spiritual ego, or something uh, away from the. And that also need to be dealt, especially by speakers like you, because otherwise you will, people will leave something and grab another.
No, true, and therefore, like in the original tradition, it was always part of the system that you had a guru. So there was a teacher and a student who was ready to hear the message. And because um, this path of awakening, which is actually not a path, but um, it can be confusing for people. And like you say, the ego thinks, okay, this is not me. So then what am I? And then you can get spiritual ego, or you think, okay, oh, now I am consciousness. So you identify yourself with something else. But this is actually a total different message. It's identifying with nothing because you are everything. But it's such a paradox. I mean, I've read stories about Zen Buddhists who were busy trying to comprehend this message for 10 years, and suddenly they got it, and all they could do is laugh. Like, this is the easiest thing ever,
Mm.
but it can be the most confusing thing ever as well. It's a total paradox, and therefore, this message can be tough sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right under your nose, and I think probably the mind, makes it hidden
It's
all the
like
time.
it's the most well-known metaphor of the ocean and the wave. You are a wave in the ocean, and the wave is looking for water. And it thinks, should I go to the left or to the right, or do I have to improve myself? And this message says, no, you are already water. It's only an illusion that you are separate from the ocean and that you have to do something to become the ocean, because you already are it. And it's a simple metaphor, but in real life, a lot of people find it hard.
Oh, this is a very, very pragmatic situation. Now, say if I touch my hand and I feel the touch here, so there's a notion of here-ness. It's here. So if I have a bodily pain, that pain is felt in a particular location,
Yes.
and that will probably establish, oh, it's here, it's me, it's I'm the one who is going through this. uh, how do you explain that? Because say if I have a bodily pain, it's not happening else, right? It's right here.
No. So you could say, like in the dream that we live in, there's one
uh,
consciousness experiencing itself in billions of forms. So uh, within the dream, it looks like you are something else other than me. But the consciousness that is looking through your eyes is exactly the same consciousness that looks through these eyes. So it's the one consciousness that creates the illusion of being many creatures, and therefore it can experience itself within the dream. So to me, if I touch my hand, it creates the idea in my head that this is my hand, and also that it's me choosing to touch my hand. Um, and this is the real experience in life. But the deeper understanding is that there is no one inside this body touching the hand. It automatically happens, just like you are happening and everything is happening. So it's oneness at play, you could say.
I'll come to a critical question. It's about time. Now, it's very easily describe that there is no time, there's no space. But this time that I'm referring to is not exactly the clock time. Clock time, yes, we get up. I mean, that's a day-to-day affair. Now, the time when I go before a mirror, I see myself, and then I realize, yes, it's not the same person whom I saw 10 years ago. So there's a kind of a I have got old. So there's a time factor. Okay, 10 years ago I was like that. And I might even look at a photograph when I was young and say, oh, at that time. So there's a linear kind of a time. And the same thing happens outside with the others also. The people who grew up with me, they have also now. And when I look at the tree outside my house, oh, yeah, I planted that and now it has grown. So now this time factor, it's difficult for me to explain, but it's just that it establishes and nurtures this notion that you are traveling along a timeline. Uh, and then when you say you are traveling along a timeline means you again that you get strengthened. You see, so there's a vicious cycle. I would like to hear from you because although people are not saying at the clock time, no, this is not the clock time. I'm not referring to clock time. I'm referring to this notion of the same person continuing.
Yeah. So within the dream we live in, like time and space are elements that are part of the programming, let's say, of the dream. So in our experience, we experience a lot of things. I experience like my hand is matter. I experience as if I am the one talking. I also experience time, like we're talking now for 50 minutes. So there's the experience of time. And that's all fine. That's all part of the dream we live in. But if we zoom out totally and see that everything is one consciousness, then even time and space are an illusion. However, the illusion feels very real in our daily life. So I'm not denying that they're there. I'm just saying they're part of they're simply elements of the dream that we live in.
So isn't it a kind of a cosmic joke? Because the very word of illusion, we are using the word illusion. Illusion means it appears to be happening, but it's not happening. So that means it has to look real for it to be an illusion. Otherwise, you can't call it. Say, for instance, I get up from my bed, and then I know exactly where I am, the city that I live. If the next day I get up from somewhere else, then I know, yeah, this is not happening actually. It's just, but it's not so. It's a perfect. So if I say the totality or oneness or whatever you call it, if I say it is imperfectly perfect or something similar, when I say imperfectly means that nothing seems okay with me, but it's there's perfection.
Definitely. So in the dream, we experience things as being imperfect. But if you see
Mm,
that everything in the dream simply goes as it goes, and this is simply the one is experiencing itself, then you could say from that perspective, it's all perfect. It's just that we experience duality in this world, and therefore there's chaos and disaster every day with many things,
yeah.
if it's your work or relationships, your health or whatever.
Mm,
So, but this is all part of the movie that we play in, and there are a lot of highlights and downfalls during the movie
mm,
that you play in as an actor. It's just that in the movie you are an actor, simply playing your role, and if you see that, then there's a lot of struggle that falls away, because if something goes different from what I had expected, normally you will
mm,
get a lot of frustration by the thought this should have been different, and you get a lot of fear towards the future, like what could happen tomorrow or the year after today. And if it's being realized that the whole movie simply goes as it goes, then a lot of frustration and fear it dissolves, because there's the realization there's only this moment, and at this moment there's nothing that could be different from what it is right now. So right now I'm just talking to you, and in my head I'm not busy with the mistakes of yesterday or what could
Yeah,
go wrong tomorrow. And a lot of people struggle because they have a lot of thoughts in their
yeah,
heads,
definitely.
projecting to the future and the past.
Well, how do you prefer to say now? Okay, some people are saying it's a drama, and then you have a role, and you just play the role. And if I ask you, which one do you prefer to say? Is it a predetermined role? In which case, what happens happens. Predetermined. I think these words might not tell exactly what I want to say. So, is it predetermined or it's just a free fall?
Yeah, well, in the Indian tradition, even my guru Ramesh Balsekar would used to say it's all the script is already written. So he would predestination, that what he refers to, or he always would say it's God's will.
Mm,
Um, and but simply because time is actually an illusion as well, I prefer to say that everything happens in this moment, but it can never be different from what it is. So that's a kind of a different description of predestination. So there's only this moment, but nothing can be different from this moment. Which means
Yes.
right now, I still have the illusion that my brain creates that it's me choosing whether or not to drink water, while at the same time being fully aware that if water is being drank, it will be used, and if not, then not. So there's not an I inside this body mind mechanism
Mhm.
that decides what to do. There's only the experience that, as if it's me deciding to drink it or not.
Well, I would like you to say that again. It's beautiful. I think it resonates. Now, you said, when I asked it, you said it's nothing can be different to what I would like you to say
And
it.
nothing can be different from what it is right now. So even
Okay.
me breathing, you nodding your head, me doing the hand, it's
Mhm.
all simply happening, and it can never be different from what's happening right now.
That actually it takes off the pressure, right? From it takes off the pressure. I think that's why I said it resonates. It's beautifully presented because there's this question whether it is predetermined role or whether it's a free fall. But then this your what you just said, in fact, it covers. No,
But it's actually
I
the
will.
same because both point to the same idea that it happens and it can never be different from what is happening. So
Mhm.
it's all words we use. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. No, well, if I can hear for the benefit of our audience now, what was your journey? Why you entered this path, and what was it? Because you were curious, or whether there was anything. I mean, we don't want any personal, but if you can just say why you entered and whom you approached and how it this kind of a awakening, if I can use that word, how did it take place?
I was always curious as a little kid, so I started to search, and when I was, I think, 10 or 11 years already. And during puberty, I would be in the library looking at religions and different philosophies. I just wanted to try to find out why am I alive. And then when I was in my 20s, I came across the book of Ramesh Balsekar, and it really hit me because also during my studies, I could comprehend also neuroscientifically that there's no free will. But then Ramesh pointed out to the idea that there's not even an I inside this body mind mechanism doing anything. And this was to me a big shift. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, wait a minute. And then gradually things start to change because your conditioning starts to change a little because you don't take things too personally anymore. Or mostly when you blame other people, that also starts to change because you realize there's not someone inside them as well doing this. So And then this is what they call the path of awakening. So it starts to integrate, let's say it goes from the head, from understanding to being just part of your life. And then things definitely will change a little in how you approach daily life.
And was there a kind of a period in which this search, or was it that just one message that cracked this whole thing?
Yeah, I remember reading the book, and to me, it was instant. So I was reading it, and I remember reading it while I was in bath, and all I could do is cry. It's like this was for me the message I had been waiting for my whole life. So this was the most amazing thing, and I was like, wow. And of course, that was still I could comprehend it at a rational level, and afterwards it has to go from the head to the heart. So that's a whole different process, which will always continue because life is very smart and it will get you. But and then gradually it starts to change. But for me, is what this was mind blowing to hear this for the first time.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I see this with a lot of people. They're like, wow, this is the most amazing message in the world. Everyone should know this. And I started to annoy all my friends and family members, like, you do not exist. And no one cares. So you're not getting popular by that. So when I got a little older, I became a bit more humble, I hope. Like if you want to hear the message, it's fine. If you don't, that's fine as well.
In the light of this, is it correct to say that there is a notion of unknowability? Um, I mean, this is a great discovery, of course, but if you try to look for anything outside, I mean, through science, through other philosophies, there's no end to gathering knowledge, because you will gather, if you look at some of the scriptures, of various religions, the scriptures runs into heaps and heaps, and of course you can study and you can master them, but I mean, if you try to grasp it, then there is a huge element of unknowability. But here it's a simple but subtle but ungraspable. Uh,
True, and this is what you
how
called the cosmic joke. So you start
yeah.
to search, and you also start to search outside, reading books, going to satsangs, meditating, do all practices, and the ego thinks like, okay, I have to do A, B, C, D, etc.
Mm,
in order to get something, and then so the path of searching it continues until there is the realization there it's not about looking at in the outside world, it's the realization that there's no one here inside doing anything. So, and it's
mm,
also the realization that what you are looking for has already been there always. So um, you're searching for something that it's already there. It's like having your sunglasses on, and you're like, where did I leave my sunglasses? And you start to look everywhere, and then you go to gurus and say, where are my sunglasses? And they say it's already on your nose. And they say, no, 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 no. It can't be this simple. Tell me, what should I do? And then you start to search in your drawers and everywhere. And this is same with the non-dual message, because the consciousness that you're looking for has already been there throughout your whole life. So, and this is your direct experience, because right now there is consciousness looking through your eyes, looking through my eyes, and this consciousness is always present and it simply witnesses what's happening right now. So, in consciousness, what appears is one character making noise, another character making noise, and it's simply being witnessed continuously. But we constantly focus on the words and we forget that it's the consciousness looking at the words. And so this is this
no,
is this is a big shift.
mm. Well, now this is another dilemma. If someone comes to you and say, Paul, tell me a kind of a path, tell me something that I should do, like meditation, for example. I mean, meditation can help, all that can help, retreats can help. But at the end, if what you are saying, um, I mean, you have. You have never lost this. It had always been with you.
Yeah, but the funny
Uh,
thing is that people first have sometimes searched for years and years until
yeah.
they
Mm,
realize there's nothing to look for. But the cosmic joke is that you first start with searching, and then you go to satsangs and read books. I've done
mm.
exactly the same, and then you continue to search and you meditate, and but also you can meditate for 1,000 years and still miss the point.
Yeah.
If it's the ego meditating in order to improve yourself, there's still that spiritual ego. Which is also fine because that also is simply happening and part of your, let's say, part of God's will, like Ramesh would say. Uh, but if this message has been seen, there's nothing to do. You don't have to meditate, read a book, eat
Mm,
vegetarian food, etc., because this consciousness has already always been there. It's really
yeah, and
joke.
true, true. But then, Paul, there are a lot of speakers who are using this metaphor, the dream, and they are trying to compare dream into this, which makes sense because, of course, inside while dreaming, everything is real. However, it's only when you wake up you realize it was a dream and nothing has happened. Now, when you compare dream to this, what is being experienced, how would you, I mean, would you say it is exactly a dream, or you would say a dream is just an example, or you would say this is a bigger version of a dream, or how would you like to put it? If you want to use the word dream.
I think a dream is a good metaphor because in your dream, everything you experience a lot of things as being real as well, and then you wake up and you're like, "Whew, this was weird." And maybe the same thing happens when we die. You're also like, "Whew, whew, this was weird." We don't know, you know. So, but it's all the dream was never actually real. It was experienced as being real. So I'm not denying that my direct experience is totally real. I think the dream looks very real. It's like having a VR glasses on, playing a game which feels 100% real. So it's amazing. However, it's merely a dream. And a lot of people take this life and themselves so seriously, and this is why they mentally struggle so much, have so much stress.
Mhm,
But life is way easier than you think because
mhm,
you also are simply happening. It's not me speaking, you know,
mhm.
words simply come out. It's the simplest message in the world.
Absolutely. But of course, it's the simplest message, but it turns everything upside down. And
Yes, and I
then,
totally
then
understand if someone is conditioned with 30 years, like this is me, uh,
mm,
this is my role, this is my status, etc. Or spiritual ego, like I have been busy with
mm,
spirituality for 20 years. Now I'm really someone, and then this message comes and it just cracks your ego instantly.
mm,
There's a lot of people get angry. Also, in my talk, sometimes spiritual people they stand up, walk away angrily because they don't want to hear this message because it's the end of the ego. So there's
mhm.
nothing here for the ego to get. It's
Mm.
run while you can, you know.
But Paul, cannot this be possible? Now, uh, I wouldn't say, but seeing this probably by no one, yeah. But seeing this can have some kind of a transformation where you would have a lot of empathy, isn't it? Now, for instance, if someone behaves in a kind of a with vengeance and or whatever that you see with this understanding, there is a kind of a, what shall I say, a warmth. It's it may not be the person, but this realization can have a transformation, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it does, but it's a transformation that's not being done by an eye. It's the
Mhm,
transformation that happens when it's being seen that there's no one here and no one there. So, for instance, there was a girl who worked for me and she stole a lot of money from me. Now, if I think there's an eye inside her and she could have done something different from what she did, I could be really
mhm,
angry at her. Yeah, or I could blame myself for not seeing that she stole a lot of money. But now it's seen this is part of my story. It's also part of
Yeah.
her story. She never did anything. I never did anything. This is simply what happens. And also, if, for instance, I'm not doing it, but if I would hire a lawyer to get my money back, that would also be part of the process, but not being done by an I. So there's still empathy for her and the innocence of her, that she could never have done it differently from what she did. It's simply part of our story. And so a lot of hate and a lot of blaming people, etc., a lot of stress and anger dissolves. But not because I am doing that, because if my ego would try not to be angry, then what you resist persists, it will
Yeah.
explode. So you can't fake
Yeah.
this. And what you see is that people look at a guru and say, oh, they're quite, have a lot of empathy, have a lot
Yeah.
of love. Let's copy their behavior. But
Yeah.
that will only,
That will work.
it will last for a few hours or days and then you'll explode. So you can't fake it, you know?
And I have come across many people who are practicing meditation on metta, that is loving kindness, but we hardly see any kind of loving kindness in their day-to-day thing. So, but then they
No, because
meditate on.
because if there's, let's say, if there's identification, there's ego, yeah, and the ego actually experiences anger. Then you try to meditate to get rid of that anger, and that can happen during meditation because your brain goes in the alpha status and you become more calm. But when you go back to normal life, there's still the anger because there is identification. There's still the idea this is me, and it's the fault of, let's say, my father or my parents or my boyfriend, whatever. So in real life, you'll explode as easily as before.
To be honest, Paul, when I sent you a request to talk with you, I thought this conversation might go on for about 1 hour or so. But because you had communicated something effectively, this could never be different to what it is. It's a very powerful message, and kind of the something can resonate. Now, for instance, when people listen to this conversation, and if the message is heard, if the message is heard, that can lead to this opening up. And that's a completely different perspective, completely different perspective. However, there is this still a problem, even in my country, who have had the exposure to this overall non-dual message. They say, yes, I understand through knowledge, but I haven't experienced. Now, this is the very question I asked you at the beginning. So I would like to, like as a final kind of a thing between the knowledge and seeing this, because people are still saying, yeah, yeah, I understand, that's true, it's true. When I look back, I have never done anything. I don't think those were my decisions. Yeah, they agree. But then I still, it's my knowledge, it's not the experience. So, what is this difference between knowledge and the experience?
Um, well, first it's being understood, and then it goes from knowledge to wisdom. And mostly, I always say life is the guru itself, because life tends to bring you in the situation where you're being triggered again, when there's an old pain or trauma or an old uh, idea that you had, and that's being challenged by experiences. So there's something happening in your life, a situation, and you instantly zoom in totally again. You're totally stressed again, panicking again like before. And then when the new insight enters, gradually it becomes lighter and lighter. And that's not being done by you. This is an automatic process that happens. But life itself is the guru. So you can be sitting at satsangs for 20 years or meditating for 100 years, getting the message, but life itself will automatically challenge you and bring you into these situations. And that you don't have to worry about that. But also you
I
don't
know.
have to worry about enlightenment, because it doesn't matter. If enlightenment happens, it happens, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's as simple as that. And if there's an I wanting to be enlightened, that's all ego. Because that it's
Exactly.
simply the identification with the body-mind mechanism that thinks, oh, if I'm enlightened, I'll be more happy. And then you start to go wanting to go from A to B, and then there's identification, so it will never happen. And therefore, no one is enlightened because there is no one.
Because in any event, this is my personal experience. I have watched so many. If there's no kind of a real seeing through or experience, not personally, seeing through, such a person cannot speak with that kind of a flow because it comes, you get my point, Paul. Now, either you see it or you don't see it.
Yeah,
there's,
true. And mostly people then simply copy what they heard, which
yeah,
is all fine. But mostly I say you can feel it if someone's identified or not. If someone's identified, there's always a little tension that's part of their energy. And if the identification drops, there's this openness. And of course, it's no one doing it, yeah. But I do
yeah.
experience in my daily life there is a difference, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy you are always qualifying yourself by saying, because otherwise you will again mislead the people that, it's really happening to a person, kind of. So this
I
is
always say that also in my talks. Just keep it for like there's because then there's subtly there's always the idea. Okay, people then say like I get what you say, but now what should I do? So no.
that's
I have never done anything. Yeah, it's like in the Bible. It said, "Thy will be done." It's automatically happening. You are automatically happening. So don't worry about it.
great. Paul, I don't want to take any of your time because I think you have simply and comprehensively communicated this, and I sincerely hope the message will resonate in those who are kind of desperately, looking for something, and at least, there are a lot of people who are going through some kind of a stressful time looking for something which they believe will, soften their, this tense or that. So with this message, I have, confidence that it will do something meaningful. So Paul, thank you very much indeed. And hopefully we can communicate with you with the question that I received from our audience, and then I'll put those questions across to you.
Oh, that's
Thank you
fine.
very much. Thanks a lot indeed.
Yes, you too.
Hang in there. Hang in there.